Welcome to Atmosphere of the Spirit with God's Apostolic Frontliner, Pastor Paul Emmanuel. As you connect with your spirit, I will be back with more information at the end of this broadcast. And now, your host, Pastor Paul Emmanuel.
Minute if you can.
I have nothing to glory of, for necessity is laid upon me. Yes. Woe is unto me if I preach not the gospel. He said here, he said, for though I preach the gospel, I have no reason to glory. For necessity is laid. Necessity is laid upon me. Woe is me if I preach not the gospel. So Paul did not preach the gospel from motivation. He preached the gospel from necessity. I want to share briefly this morning on what I titled Necessity, the language of world changers. Necessity, the language of world changers. You see, saints of God, there are people who live life by feelings. And I'll say it anywhere, people who live life based on feelings, they never arrive at their destiny. Anybody who lives life from the place of emotions that is not stable, the person will make decisions that will cost him or her his destiny. Man, you see, the glory of God that manifests in the earth realm is not a respecter of men, but is a respecter of principles. Where men live their lives based on principles, they end up shattering obstacles. When you live your life based on principles, obstacles can't stop you. When you live your life based on principles, wickedness becomes a stepboard for you to go to where you're going. Paul said here, he said, although I preach the gospel of Jesus, I have nothing to glory about. It didn't mean he didn't have anything. He was only trying to say that as long as the gospel of Jesus was what we was talking about, he had no reason to talk about anything else. And the reason why he kept on doing that was saying that he said, for necessity is laid upon me. He said, necessity is laid upon me. There are people who need hands to be laid on them before they can change their world. But I tell you that there are certain people like us, even if hands are not laid on us, once necessity is laid on your destiny, you can't die small. Once necessity, because sometimes you may not be able to see the kind of hand you want on your life. I'm talking about men laying hands. I mean, the Bible said Moses laid hand on Joshua, and then wisdom and grace was transmitted unto him. But if there is no Moses to lay hand on you, if God can lay necessity on your destiny, that is the language that men who turn their world upside down, that is the language that they speak. When you live your life on the lane of necessity, there is nothing the enemy can do that can trouble you or stop you from arriving at your destiny. I said something somewhere, and I'm going to say it again. It takes necessity to crush adversity. It takes necessity to crush adversity. It takes necessity to crush adversity. Many people are not moving forward because they say, sir, there are adversaries in front of me. There are enemies in front of me. Paul said, an effectual door has been opened unto me, but there are many that oppose me. There are many adversities. Paul even recognized that there are many adversities. Peter said, he said, for our adversary, the devil, goes about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. In other words, there are adversities and there are adversaries. There are things standing in front of you, but men who necessity has been laid on them, they don't consider adversity. They crush adversity because they know that once necessity is laid on a man, the man buries excuses. Once necessity is laid on a man, the man buries challenges. Once necessity is laid on a man, the man forgets what his father didn't do right. Anybody that is still complaining about my father didn't help me, my mother didn't help me, it is good for you to receive their help. The Bible said a good man leaves inheritance for his children. I beg your pardon. But if his father, if his parents couldn't leave inheritance to him, once necessity comes on him, his background does not matter. His background is an advantage. Once you understand the power of necessity laid upon a man, you can't sleep when others are sleeping. You can't do the wrong things others are doing. Once you live your life by necessity, you come out of obscurity. Once you live by necessity, you break the yoke of obscurity in your family. They say nobody has been known, nobody has done it before. Men who live by necessity, they are game changers, they are world changers. Nothing can stop them. There is no excuse in front of them. No wonder the Bible said, thou art inexcusable. Oh man, Paul said, for necessity is laid upon me. Woe is me if I do not preach the gospel. The reason why you can't rehearse is because there's no necessity on you. Necessity, they don't need money to turn their stories around. Necessity is a currency that turns men from obscurity to limelight. Necessity is a currency that helps men move from the backside of the wilderness to where they are going. Listen to me, saints of God. You may not have brothers to encourage you. Once necessity, my God, once necessity is laid upon a man, the man can't sleep when others are sleeping. The man can be comfortable in poverty. The man, oh my God, the man or the woman can be comfortable where he or she is because he or she is living by what is laid. It's good for you to lay hands on me, but if I can't get your hand, let God lay necessity on me. When I understand the language of necessity, I can change my world. Once I understand the language of necessity, I can become a millionaire. Once I understand the language of necessity, I can turn my family story around. Once I understand the language that necessity is laid on me. Lift your hand and say, my Father. I didn't hear that. Say, my Father and my God, let necessity be laid upon me. Let necessity be laid upon my destiny. Can you make that a prayer point for just 1 minute, everybody? Make sure you pray. Don't allow anything to distract you. This is a service where lives are being turned around. If you hear this teaching well, your life can turn around. I pray that you will hear the right word. Mako sirende librahane. Somebody talk to God. I give you 30 seconds more. Talk to him. In Jesus' mighty name, we have decreed. I'm saying this here, that God cannot be stopped in the generation of men who live by necessity. They can't stop God. There is nothing that can stop God in the generation of men who live by necessity. Necessity is laid on me. Necessity is an oil that keeps men going in destiny. Necessity is a burning fire. It makes men born to the next. It makes men born to the next generation. When men understand necessity, they born from one generation to the other generation. They born from one place to another place. Men who live by necessity, put them in the desert, they will born. Put them in the water sides, they will born. Put them in the back sides, they will born. Put them where there is money, they will born. When men live by necessity, they end up as genius. When men live as necessity, they further their destiny. When men live by necessity, they advance into glory. For the path of the just is a shining light that shines to a perfect day. When men live by, my God, when you live by necessity, nothing can stop you, nothing can stop your God. When the reason why you are still complaining is because there is no necessity on you. When necessity lands on you, it will jack you from the bed, put you on your feet on the street, and you keep running around until you get to your destination. When men live by necessity, they bury excuses in the cemetery of darkness. When men live by necessity, no wonder they caught the apostles. They told them in the book of Acts chapter 4, they said, you must not preach in the name of Jesus anymore. But they looked at the guys and said to them, you must help us understand who we should obey, whether we should obey you or whether we should obey our God. The reason why I can't stop preaching is because there is necessity on my destiny. The reason why I can't stop singing is because there is necessity on my destiny. Why is it that every day you still find time to go to church? Every day there is even nobody in church, but you are the one that keep coming to church. Hey, there's necessity on my destiny. Why is it that every time you still come to the house of God and you still clean the house of God? I am sorry if you don't feel comfortable about that. There is necessity on my destiny. Why is it that you still find time to go out for evangelism? Are you the only one in the ministry? There is necessity upon my destiny. Necessity is the fire that burns and turns nations and their world upside down. When men live by necessity, they don't die small as local champions. When men live by necessity, they don't die on one particular spot. Necessity tells them, I can't stay here and die. I am too big for where I am. Necessity. When men live by necessity, that is the boiling point. That is the fever pitch for every achievement and accomplishment. Anybody who accomplished anything great, they accomplished it because necessity is upon them. And I want to say to somebody, necessity, necessity, but necessity can be an impartation. Necessity can be a laying on. As men lay hands on men, God can lay necessity on a man. Once you carry necessity on your destiny, you get to a point of no return where nothing can stop your destiny. Oh my God, when you are a man of necessity, necessity will interpret the burdens of your heart. Hey, men who live by necessity, they don't need encouragement from others. They are encouraged by them. They are a mobile encouragement. They know that if I don't, my God, Paul said, for woe is me if I don't preach the gospel. I am not really cursed, but I'm disadvantaged. It is necessity that made the gospel go round. It is necessity that made you hear the gospel. It is necessity that makes you run the world. Listen to me, saints of God. The gospel did not come by feelings. The gospel came in the thick of persecutions. The gospel came in the midst of death of people. Many people died, but they still but they still carried the gospel. They cannot say they called his name Jesus. From the day he was born to the day of 30, he kept finding destiny. He kept on attracting grace. When he got the grace for destiny, he began to preach. He began to teach. He began to do all that he began to teach. And the Bible records in the one particular day, he got into the Garden of Gethsemane, and then the Father told him, in the chapters of your destiny, you are meant to die. In the chapters of your destiny, you are meant to die. From tonight, you will be handed over to your enemies. Your enemies will beat you, they will slap you, they will put marks on your back, they will do everything. And Jesus said, my Father, is it possible for this cup to pass over me? And the Father said, it's not possible, because before you were born, you already died. Before the foundations of the world, you already died. If you died in predestination, you can't change it in destiny. If you died in predestination, you can't change it in reality, because predestination is where destinies are finished and started before they come into the earth realm. So the Father said to him, Jesus, you already died in predestination, you can't change it here. And Jesus said, okay, that's okay. Nah, if it's possible, let the cup pass over me, but nonetheless, not my will, but thy will be done. Jesus did not drink the cup from feelings, he drank the cup from necessity. No wonder they carried him and they flogged him on the back 39 times, and yet he kept going because of necessity. He carried his cross daily. He got to a point, the cross fell, he knelt down, the cross fell down, but then again somebody came to help him because of necessity. Oh, they carried the crown of thorns and they put on his head, and yet he was still there because of necessity. They took the nails, they drove into his palms, and yet he did not come down from the cross because of necessity. They carried him and they nailed the nails through his legs, and then to the wood. He was crying because of necessity. One time nobody heard him. From 12 o'clock in the afternoon, he shouted, my father, why art thou forsaking me? Because of necessity. When you carry necessity, you will turn your world upside down. Nobody has heard your father's name because you are still playing by feelings. You don't understand the power of destiny. When men come by destiny, they live by necessity. Necessity interprets destiny. Necessity bets destiny. Necessity is the womb where destinies are born. Necessity is the womb where great people come into glory. The language of world changers. Necessity is the language of champions. When men speak the language of necessity, they live their life by burden. They don't live their life by feeling. They don't go to church because it feels like it. They come to God's house because they know necessity. Why are you in church by 6 a.m.? Necessity. Because, oh God, if I don't do it, who will do it? Men who live by necessity are not easily replaceable. When you live by necessity, you can't be easily replaced. When you live by necessity, you transition into another generation. When you listen, as a student, if you live by necessity, that is the language of champions. Because when others are busy going to clubs and looking for women and men to mess around with, you are sitting down your books 3 hours you are reading, because you know necessity is laid on you. Why will I not sleep with that girl? Because the necessity of my destiny is calling my name. Why will I not steal from that organization? Because there is a necessity I'm living with. Necessity is the bloodline of champions. Necessity is the blood of destiny changers. Until you get to the point of necessity, your destiny does not become important to men. It is necessity that makes you preferred in a generation where others are going down. Necessity. I'm speaking to somebody. If you want to come out of obscurity, commit your life to necessity. If you want to come out of the dungeon of the enemy, commit your... Paul said, for necessity is laid. Necessity is not an English word, it's a kingdom language. necessity is not an English language. It is a kingdom language. That is the language that hosts God and that hosts God in every generation. Any generation where you see God standing, there are men who live by necessity. John Gillek lived by necessity. That's why at a very young age he died. We're still talking about him. Catherine Kuhlman lived by necessity. Oh my God. And I'm saying this to somebody. Necessity is not necessarily a language of people who are in church. It is the language of world changers. Even people who are doing great things in the banking sector, they live by necessity. The richest man in the world, he lives by necessity. Aha! Is somebody hearing what I'm saying? World changers and global leaders, they live by necessity because they know that if they don't do what they are supposed to do, they can't arrive at where they want to arrive. Necessity is the vehicle that helps men arrive at their destiny. It is necessity that makes you go to shop even if you didn't sell that particular day. You know that tomorrow you will sell. You know that day after tomorrow you will sell. It is necessity. Even if there is nobody in the church, if necessity is laid on me, I will come over and come again, because men of necessity can generate their own audience. Men of necessity will generate their own followers. Men of necessity will generate their own people. Men of necessity, even if nobody follows him, one day by necessity the world will hear your voice. The world will come to know you. If you live by necessity, you can't die small. If you live by necessity, God backs you up to where you are going. John chapter 9 verse 4. John chapter 9 verse 4. If you can find it, let's read it. Paul said, woe is me if I preach not the gospel. John 9 verse 4. What is the meaning of necessity? Necessity means you asking yourself one question: can God be revealed if I am not involved? Can God be revealed if I am not there? Necessity is defined as being the only voice in the wilderness, even if there is no other voice there. For many years, John the Baptist was the voice in the wilderness, a lone voice. But one day, that voice in the wilderness, the entire village came to him. The entire city came to him because he lived from necessity. Men who live by necessity, God can be stranded in their lives. In the generation of men who live by necessity, God cannot be stranded where they are. God cannot. John chapter 9 verse 4. I want to give one example. He said, for I must walk the works of him that sent me while it is yet day. Jesus died from the place of understanding necessity. He reported to necessity. And when men understand necessity, they don't leave their duty post. I remember days younger, when I was way younger. Like I told us here, I'll carry the Bible on my head. My Bible was bigger than me. Put on my head. Go to church. Come back home. As a student, do you know why? GSS. Even in primary school, they were already calling me a pastor. I didn't know this was my destiny. But necessity was pushing me. Necessity was pushing me. No matter what you do in life, if you don't add necessity to it, it will not work. It will fail. No matter what you are doing, if necessity is not your language, you can't interpret it to your generation. If necessity is not your resolution, that thing you are doing will die with you. But when you are a person of necessity, you give your spirit, your soul. Men of necessity have no reservation. Men of necessity, they don't reserve themselves when they do what they are doing. A man of necessity will throw his spirit, soul, body and everything into what he's doing. And until what you do has everything of you, he can't give you his own everything. Until what you are doing has your everything, he can't give you his own everything. He can't, until what you are doing has your best, he can't give you his best. Necessity is laid. Necessity is an impartation. It's an impartation. It's not a gift you are born with. It can be an impartation that is put on you. No hand may be laid on you as a preacher, but if there is necessity on you, you will burn your world. You will burn. I said you will burn in your generation. If no hand is laid on you, no money is given to you, nobody is helping you at the particular point. If you carry necessity, you will attract helpers of destiny. If you carry necessity, you will attract provision. If you carry necessity, you will arrive at your destination. Rise to your feet.